in pain. I have a knack for it. Chapter 21, part 6. Now in the book, it's just chapter 21. It is broken down into 3 or 4 different parcels, but it doesn't say part 1, part 2, part 3. The first speakers of Isaiah 53 are the witnesses of the righteous servant. In the quoted multiple verses 1 through 6, the quote begins at verse 1 and concludes at the end of verse 6. The many who are made righteous by God's righteous servant, Moshiach. Now God was the speaker of Isaiah 52, 13 through 15, which is the beginning of, as I call it, Isaiah 50, chapter 53 proper. Verse 1, who would have believed our report? And to whom was the arm of the Lord revealed? Rashi, and that's Rashi's Bible verse. Who would have believed our report? Midrash. Commentary by Rashi. So will the nations say to one another, were we to hear from others what we see, it would be unbelievable. And that's what you should be saying about what I'm presenting you. Far and above more knowledge than has ever been revealed in Judaism, and at one time. Not over 2,000 years, or however long it's been. The arm of the Lord. Midrash. Commentary. Like this, with greatness and glory, to whom was it revealed until now? I guess he's saying it's Jewish people. The righteous servant. Well, we're saying that too. Except it's not Israel. It's not all the Jewish people gathered as one man. Okay, here's my commentary on who can believe what we have heard, starting with a quote. Upon whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? That's from the JPS 1985 translation, Hebrew to English. Midrash, who can believe what we have heard? The witnesses ask, who can believe that God redeems the Jewish people by the new covenant with sin forgiveness that is delivered by the messenger Elijah, who receives it from the angel of the covenant, who is the angel of God's presence, the Holy Spirit, that alights upon the anointed one in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. Who can believe? Is this still the redemption? Redeems, okay. Redeemed by the covenant of friendship that comes with the servant David, a shepherd, when he sanctifies Israel by having the third temple built on his holy Mount Zion, hopefully in Jerusalem, if we can find a big enough tract. I'm not that familiar with Jerusalem, never been there. And by speaking to his prophet again, as he spoke to Moses, face to face and friend to friend. And all by and with one man the Lord calls my righteous servant. Now the first 6 verses are the witnesses. 7 through, I guess, 9. Well, we'll get to it. Are by Isaiah. And then God concludes with 11 and 12. Could be 10. God shows it. That might be Isaiah. Anyway, you have different writers. When he sanctifies Israel, and friend to friend, And all by and with one man the Lord calls my righteous servant. Rambam says in chapter 12 of the laws concerning King Moshiach, which do not exist, except in his mission of Torah. It's not in the Hebrew Bible. He's made it up. That's what he thought it would be like. That Moshiach will compel all of Israel to walk in the way of the Torah. Last survey said that 30% of Israeli Jews were observant. 30%. Now, how am I going to tackle those other 70? I mean, I guess he's thinking Moshiach's going to do it. That's what he says. Moshiach will compel. Wow. Really? And they believe this. Your rabbi, they read this, they just eat it right up. Oh, yeah. Rambam knows everything. He shall perfect the entire world. I don't even know what that means. I guess it's make everybody stop fighting and sinning. How am I going to do that? You got to understand, I was an atheist for 50 years, and God orchestrated that. He was with me at birth. He didn't speak to me until I was 50. And it's primarily to make my life miserable and to suffer injuries. That he had and suffer cancer. He chose to crush the righteous servant with disease. And it exposes him to death in verse 12. Okay, let me just keep going. This is going to be long enough. Perfect the entire world, motivating all the nations to serve God together. Really? Let's go to China first. Neither envy nor competition. Let's go to Vatican Isle. Oh no. Yeah, let's go to Vatican Isle. Let's get the Pope. Yeah, he's going to exalt the Jews and go become a Jew and tell the Jews he's disavowed Jesus. And he wants to go into the house of prayer, but you can't go into the house of prayer unless you follow the covenant and all the laws and rules God gave Moses, as the Israelites and the Jewish people today have to do. Yes, the Pope's going to have to practice the 613 laws derived from the Torah. I hadn't thought of that one. That's a good one. There will be no famine. Nobody's going to be hungry. No war. Now, I don't know who's going to grow all the food. Doesn't sound like the farmers are going to be. They sound like they got a full day ahead of them. The entire world will be solely to know God. And the Jews, therefore, will be great sages and know the hidden matters with an understanding of the Creator to the full extent of human potential. And that would be me, not the Jewish people. And I'm imparting much of that knowledge on these videos. And of course, they're in God's book, and that's how I know. I could have never figured all this out. Look, I got, as I say, gut shot. I got shot through the abdomen. Went in on the right side where your bladder is, and went all the way across me and basically lodged in my left buttock. And it was 8 hours before I got to a hospital that could help me. I didn't think of God one time. Didn't try to make any deal. Didn't tell God I'd stop sinning. The name just did not come to mind. And his sanctuary, God's presence shall rest over them. And when the sanctuary abides among them forever, the nations will know that the Lord sanctifies Israel. That's what the Gentiles are going to know. Or they should. Who would believe that one man fulfills Who can believe what we have heard? I'm still on that. Who would believe that one man fulfills and completes the remaining prophecies of God? There's six prophecies being fulfilled by me. In the day of the Lord. The remaining prophecy to be fulfilled is the delivery of two specific covenants and the arrival of God's righteous servant Moshiach, who makes the many righteous. Of course, the anointed one, a shepherd, God calls my servant David. Elijah, who was taken to heaven and returns and recounsels the members of the Jewish families one to the other through Judaism and righteousness. That's making the many righteous. My duties and those of Elijah pretty much go straight together, and it's a good thing, because I'm both. I'm Moshiach, I'm Elijah, prophet like Moses. Who did I leave out? Oh, and the man described in Isaiah 53. And the prophet like Moses, who wrote the Torah at the command and direction of God. The witnesses will report, and who would believe it? Not many people right now, based on the comments I get, very derogatory. Shunned and despised. God knew it was going to be like this. Shunned and despised and held of no account. That's in Isaiah 53. And who would believe it? That they had been told by their wise men, sages, rabbis, and theologians, that God's righteous servant of Isaiah 53, though they had not been told, is a Gentile. It's possible some have, but I've never seen it in the beginning. Isaiah 63 says God comes from Adam, that is interpreted in Judaism to be Christianity or Gentile, the nations, and means he is coming from a Christian country. And of the people, Jewish people, none are with him. He comes with a Gentile. His righteous servant, Moshiach, the prophet like Moses. He's got to have a visible representation. I mean, basically, he's throughout the earth at all times. But you don't know where he is specifically, his presence, his mind, unless he's got a man, a guy. I mean, it could be a woman, but that's not how it's shaping out. Jesus was a Jewish man who came from Nazareth. Well, the Christians say he's God. Well, if he's God, he's supposed to have come from Adam, not Nazareth. The Jewish people did not come from Adam. Well, see, we got to change that. Well, technically, Europe is Gentile lands, Christianity, the nations, and that is where they returned from for the most part to create Israel in 1948. Now, in the Exodus, God wouldn't allow, well, Moses wouldn't allow, and 600,000 Egyptian slaves and their families that he was leading to the promised land, they had to go around Adam. They weren't allowed to go through. And if Moses can't go through, then God didn't go through. Because God's in Moses. And once he comes within you and the Spirit of life is upon you, he doesn't leave. He's been with me 16 years now. Just think about that. And here I am, Jesus. It just seems like we're just inching our way towards Israel. But I have total faith and devotion in this day of the Lord and what he's going to get done. And that's how 63 starts, Isaiah 63. Who is this coming from? Adam, and from their great city, Basra. The witnesses report that they had never heard that the captain of the Lord's host is a Gentile and a harbinger of God's righteous servant who is a Gentile and who becomes a host of the Lord's host, the man of divine beings, when God's Spirit alights upon him in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. The witnesses had never heard that the divine beings are the Holy Spirit, who is the angel. Again, who can believe what we have heard? They couldn't believe it themselves. There might be many of them right now watching these videos, thinking, I'm going to get back to synagogue, and I can't wait till the covenant of sin forgiveness goes into effect. Yeah, and be sure to go to Yom Kippur. You're only forgiven of the sins you've done today, or when this book's published. That's when it is effective. But God pretty much sees the Jewish people sin-free right now. It's just in a friendly mood. But we have to get it marketed. That was the problem with Zechariah chapter 1 that Rashi could not figure out. And he said, we have to wait for the teacher of righteousness to explain this to us. The truth of it. And I have. I have in the book and on video. And it has to do with the exiles, all 13 tribes that returned, not realizing when God forgave their sins. They just knew they were getting ready to build a temple, and a curse had been lifted against them. They had returned to Jerusalem. But they needed to know they were sin-free, and they needed to find the scroll of Isaiah. Apparently they didn't have it. The TV's on again. Yeah, I'll take a break.